So before the pandemic, my trip from Dubai to Jamaica on average would take about a day. And I think one time I actually got to, it was like a 19-hour journey. But this time around, it was supposed to be a 32-hour journey, which I was freaking out about because I was like, oh my gosh, it's so long. But in the end, I ended up reaching Jamaica like 3 days after boarding the flight to Jamaica. I ended up spending 2 days, 2 whole days in JFK Airport in New York, and it was a very, very interesting time. You really do see. So I have to get through 3 airports to come here. So I have to go through Dubai International Airport, John F. Kennedy Airport in New York, and also Norman Manley International Airport, Jamaica. And what I saw that was common among all of that was you could see the differences because I had traveled these airports for years as crew and also as a customer, as a passenger. So you could see that things are not the same. You could see me, things are not the same at all. I'm sitting down in New York airport in during this video mostly, and I I was see I started out looking like fresh vegetable, but yeah, you would see the transformation as I the airport was cold and I ended up yeah, trying to put on whatever I could as I didn't anticipate that long stay in the airport. You could see that the place was very scanty. Some seating areas that were usually there. Like there's this particular area when I would have an average of an 8 hour layover in New York whenever I'm coming home. So I would have to wait on the next flight for 8 hours, and it was normal for me for the 6 years. Although I did go home maybe 4 times in that 6 years, to be honest. And yeah, just not having enough food places. Not all of the food places are open. The seating situation is not the same, so I felt even more stranded than I would. There wasn't even places to sit except in the food court. And I was the first day I was supposed to wait 14 hours after my 14-hour flight to go on my other flight to Jamaica. And I was exhausted beyond measure because I was saying, up and down in Dubai, sorting my cargo, meeting people, packing my stuff to come back. I think I hadn't really slept well in 2 weeks before that. So I feel like that exhaustion had compounded the situation. Here I was sleeping. I was so sleepy. And this day I was so exhausted I actually lost my voice. Yeah. So the police officer actually woke me up at some point. So that first day I think I only slept like 2 hours. I didn't realize he was an officer until after the whole thing. I was so exhausted. I was talking to this person. I didn't even see what was written on his uniform. Apparently, he gave me the impression that he just didn't want me to miss my flight. But I was the only person actually in this section of the food court. Apparently, there were some people with me in the previous photos. Actually, this is practically the next day. But anyway, yeah. So this area that I'm sitting on very uncomfortable because the seats are restricted. And yeah. So the night before, this is I think the second day. The night before, I was sleeping. I was trying to sleep because my flight should have been for 5 a.m. the next morning. And yeah, so he said, oh yeah, you gotta wake up because I don't want you to miss your flight or something. But by the looks of things and the way I was dressing, I'm sure he assumed maybe I was homeless. I was having that homeless vibes. And yeah, one of the things that even in that brief, during that time, that one day in the airport, I did consider the homeless people, and I feel like they're being vigilant as well to people just sleeping around, or maybe genuinely not wanting me to quote unquote miss my flight or whatever. I was the only person in that section as well, and my terminal for the flight was in another terminal. I did try to get my baggage to be stored where I could pay for them to store my baggage because I knew that moving around the airport for one day with my baggage would have been a disaster. And I did try to find a place. I finally went to another terminal to find the baggage carousel, the baggage storage people. I did find them, but they didn't have the 24-hour or the normal timings because of COVID. So it didn't make sense. I would only have to keep my bag there for 4 hours or 5 hours while paying for 24 hours, and then I would have to come back and pick my bag by 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m. in the night to come back for the flight in the morning, because they would open after my flight should have left. So again, this baggage situation is being affected by corona. I asked about lounges or somewhere I could stay. Again, those places would have been open before. There was one, they said American Express or something, American airline, that was open, but not for me. Something like if you're going to the flight, some little bit of a drama. So if you're traveling during this pandemic, you have to be aware there you might not be able to get enough that variety of food places. Maybe bag storage will be an issue. Lounges probably gonna be closed or maybe limited if they're opened. And I did try to. My feet are swollen by now. This is day 2. The next thing that I could advise you as well, you have to keep double checking everything. So my situation was compounded by the fact that I had left Dubai, like for good. I mean, for good, or whatever God is saying right now. So I didn't have a card. I canceled my bank card and everything like that. And I needed to, I was desperate. So by the second day, I was exhausted. I hadn't showered by then in 2 days. And I didn't even have much of an appetite. I didn't have a voice. By the second day, thank God, my voice came back. And yeah, the thing is that I tried to stay at a nearby hotel, even though I wasn't 100% happy to stay, because it's obviously expensive for the night or for some hours to sleep and shower. But in the end, this is me in Jamaica trying to find my cargo. But that's a story for another video, because I still don't have my cargo. Long story. Yeah. So anyway, I was just there waiting in the airport and everything, and I tried to get the hotel. It didn't work out because they didn't take cash, and also the option of loading my money on that card that they have in the airport, that you can load the money, but the deposit I was gonna be paying was ridiculous, because when I paid the hotel and put that deposit, I would have to randomly spend that money on the card in the airport, because that hotel wouldn't give me back cash. So in the end, I decided to rough it out another night, and the reality of the situation, and also my phone, I also disconnected this form. I gotta get back to this form, all done here, and this is the travel advisory stuff. Yeah, so in the end, it was me staying in the airport again another night, and it was yeah, it was something. So the reason why I stayed in the airport the other night is because my flight was cancelled. So you have to double check on all, especially when you have connecting flight during this corona period. You have to check on your connecting flights, because my flight was booked by my company. Maybe my situation is also different, because my flight was booked by my company prior to even the whole travel advisory procedure that Jamaica had. So the first drama was that I came to the airport. I spent my 14 hours layover. I struggled, didn't really sleep, moved terminals, walk up and down, did everything I could. Transfer to the next terminal to make sure I was going to be there for my flight. I tried to put my bag inside the baggage carousel, and the lady was like telling me to go back, and there was a little bit of somebody told me to go there, somebody told me to go back. Long story short, she could see the tag on my bag, and it was tagged from Dubai to go straight to Kingston, but then that flight no longer existed. So my flight was cancelled, and I'm not sure if my company, I don't think they were notified, neither was I notified. So my ongoing flight to Jamaica was no longer there. And the drama to get on another flight, and calling the airline and back and forth with the people at the counter, by God's grace, after another day, it was sorted out. They tried to get me on another flight to Montego Bay, which would have meant I would have to do a 4-hour bus ride back to Kingston, but that didn't work out because of the travel authorization that I needed from Jamaica, the drama. So I was aware of it before I left Dubai. I did try to sign up for it, which I thought I did. So I got that little weird thing that day. When I finished filling out the form online, it told me that thing, your CS form is done, all done, welcome to Jamaica. So me big and bossy and screenshot it, and did my COVID test in Dubai, and came to all the drama, all the airport, all the stuff, to come to Jamaica for them to tell me that that's not what they needed. They need another document. I tried since 4 a.m. until about 9 something, standing right in front of the check-in counter at the airport terminal, trying to get so I was trying to get the travel authorization done. I was back and forth in my email, so I have to take this time out to heal up and to give God thanks for using the gentleman at the baggage carousel. I credit most of the fact that I even got on the flight when I did and everything to him. This man really lent me his phone because my phone was practically useless. I was able to connect to the Wi-Fi, but now I needed to call Jamaica. I needed to call the COVID hotline to ask them questions, because that's the site I was given. I had even emailed them prior. They sent me the site and everything, and my friends from Jamaica had given me information. So I thought, as I said, that was the document or the proof that they needed, and I had just gone about my business to come home. So now I finally, after a very long time, got through to one of the ladies on the line on the COVID website or COVID hotline or whatever, and she told me, okay, then you need to start over. Sorry. But the app was giving me a warm time. It was giving me a very, very warm time, to the point where I doubted if I had even done the proper thing in the first place or if I had the right information. But then the app started asking me questions that I remember answering. For example, they needed the exact location of my friend's house and her information, which thank God at that time I had already gone through, so I didn't have to try to call her and get her to give me her address and all of that. So the proper address, street number, and and I stayed there for so long that I even said to one of the check-in agents, I said to him, the supervisor was assisting me as well, and he kept waiting for me to get the authorization to see if he could get me on a flight and everything. And the gentleman at the carousel kept calling and pushing me to call and stuff like that. And I got through to the lady, so she said, okay, start over. I did. It was drama. The app was just not being my friend and everything. And then I filled it in maybe 2 different times and the information just disappeared. It was giving me a very crazy warm time. So I finally, after many hours, got it to the point where they need you to get a confirmation with a code. Now that code is a very long code, like G dot 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 dot. Not a very simple code. So by this time I'm like, see, they didn't give me this option the first time. And then I was able to get it to the point where it was on the app and it said that my approval was pending. And I needed to now be refreshing the page and calling back Jamaica. There are times when I didn't get them, times when it would just go, the call wouldn't go through. There are times it, just to try to get through, I asked my friend from Jamaica to call them. She was calling them. I was calling them on the man's phone. The gentleman was being very patient. So between 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe about 5 hours on my feet right in front of the the people trying to get the information. And it was a very dramatic thing. They needed the code and everything. The travel authorization document actually comes with a barcode. It comes with your name and your passport number and everything. So if you're in this situation, don't let this mistake that I did happen, or this ignorance that you think that this document, I don't know why the app gave me that option anyway, and that whatever information, false information. So if it's not something with the code and stuff like that, it's not going to be the correct one, because when you get to Jamaica, you're going to need the information from that same document to put into the COVID app that they will use to quote unquote track you when you get to Jamaica. And they will require you to do video random updates of where you are and stuff like that in the app. So that information, even if by some miracle or bribery they had allowed me to pass through US without the travel authorization, I would still have to answer to the soldiers who are checking. There are soldiers there. There are soldiers in Jamaica waiting for this COVID thing. But I'm just kidding. Like, these are very nice young men, professionals, and I didn't feel threatened. They were just doing their jobs and ensuring that we put the app on the phone and all of that. So anyway, they the authorization finally came many hours later, when the flight, it was too late to board the second flight. No, the first flight didn't exist. The second flight was not to the location I needed, but I would have compromised just to get on a flight anyway. And my company was also checking for flights on their system, which wasn't showing any available flight for God knows what time. I was concerned about being put back on a later flight because my cargo should have arrived before me, and I don't know what charges it would incur if it would just be in the airport waiting for me. So those are a lot of stuff that came to my mind. I don't think I can finish the drama in any one video, but it so then the second flight sorry, that I would have gone on also had to leave. The agents were patient with me, so I had to stand there again, just trying to figure things out. And then I had to wait for the agents to finish their duties, because by now, I mean, it's already too late for me. I can't get on the flight. So they sorted out some other flights and stuff, so while I waited again for a lot of hours, after maybe 2-3 more hours or something like that. And then they even changed shift on me. So I was standing there before the people came to work, and they left me standing there as well. There was no time to stop for food or think of anything except to try to figure out getting on a flight. And in the end, again, I got so frustrated at one point. I was tired, actually. My eyes were burning like pepper. I wanted to vlog. I wanted to make videos. I couldn't. And the few videos I did, they had no sound. My eyes were really burning. I finished most of the eye drops. Thank God I remembered to bring extra eye drops and stuff like that. And my feet started to swell at this point. I was and so eventually they changed shift, and the supervisor just referred my case to the other gentleman on the shift, and by God's grace they were able to get me on a flight. But that flight would be, obviously, as I said before many times, for the next day. So the next challenge is that they did get me on a flight. They were nice as they could be in the situation. There's nothing they could do, because without the travel authorization, I couldn't go to Jamaica. If my flight didn't exist, they couldn't put me on it and all of that. And I feel like they did try their best. At one point, they wanted me to call back Dubai, but I gave the guy one look. I was just like, because I feel at this point, if they didn't really help, because the flights were showing blocked and full from that section as well. And the challenge with me having to call back and forth Dubai is my phone is now disconnected and stuff like that, and I was only using the gentleman's number to make toll-free calls. So I rough it out again. Another night at the airport, I met another lady from St. Elizabeth, very good woman of God. I woke up at one point, this woman was praying for me as well while I was sitting there with my leg up beside her. I didn't go back to the section where the police woke me up that day. I was like, I don't want trouble. Oh. So anyway, police woke me up, drama, just being, so you can see the different phases, taking off stuff, putting on different jacket, putting on my cap, putting on my socks and everything. And I finally got on a flight the next day after a lot of event, and I feel like I made a lifelong friend from that gentleman at the carousel. God used that man to really help me. He said, you cannot give up now, you've been trying. He stood there his whole shift basically between doing his job. He lent me his phone, so I had his phone most of the time as well, trying to get stuff done. At points I gave him back the phone, I couldn't be bothered, and he kept giving me back the phone to try. And if I didn't get through to Jamaica, they would have been able to explain to me, try again, refresh the thing, start over, blah blah blah, because I would have just been lost. At this time, I didn't even know what the document that they wanted from me looked like. And so it is, you have to think of your baggage. You have to think of traveling light if you can. You have to think of not making this trip if you don't have to. And I got on a flight the next morning. I was so exhausted. I fell asleep for like 2 hours. No, for like 1 hour. I put my seatbelt on. I sat up like I know, because I'm a flight attendant. You don't put your seat back, so they will wake you up in the middle of it. So my seat was upright. My belt was there. I made sure my belt was showing. And then somebody woke me up. So as I said, someone woke me up. So I just woke up to the voice of this young man. I saw him. He was sitting behind me. After speaking to him afterwards, I realized that he was actually traveling for a sad occasion, but somehow he still was very cheerful and a compassionate person. So by the time, I don't hear him calling me, but I wake up and I'm facing him. and well, he's in the aisle, I'm in my seat at the window, and I could see he's telling me that we need to get off the plane. And in my mind, like, we should be halfway to Jamaica by now. Like, what is happening here? And you could tell how exhausted I was because whatever reason, I remember before I fell asleep, they said that there was going to be a delay because there was too much fuel in the aircraft or something like that. So anyway, I expected, delay, blah, blah. But then I fell asleep at some point. I woke up, this guy's telling me, look, we have to change planes. And I'm thinking to myself, how tired could I have been where I didn't even hear the PA? So now I'm the only one sitting down and everybody's already have their stuff and they're standing in the aisle. And we have to deplane, we have to leave the plane and actually get transferred. And I actually get transferred to another plane. I stopped counting the hours now. I stopped adding up the hours. I'm also confused. I don't know how many hours after I left Dubai this is now. And I'm just like, at this point, I must confess, I was okay the whole time until now. I'm just like, God, is it time for me to die? Am I the bad luck on this plane? I'm like, it doesn't matter, but God, please, I need to see heaven. I need to see heaven because after all of this drama, and after all of this drama, and I didn't even mention that in Dubai, I ended up at the wrong gate. So for some reason, anyway, so the drama started from there, but I won't even go back to that. I don't have too much time on this video. But anyway, so by this time now, I'm saying, God, what is it? This is something fishy. Am I going to die? This is very funny because I have been traveling for years as crew, as a customer. The most I've had was delays or something, but too much drama in 3 days. I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm like, what? Just when I think that I am going to be home again, then the guy said we have to change. So we had to go again and wait at the gate for some hours. Maybe was it 1 hour or 2 or something? I don't remember. I was so hungry again because it was an early flight. The food places wasn't open. Starbucks was open, but obviously a long line. And I got some random, very bad tasting chicken sandwich, something. They said it was chicken and avocado, but the avocado, I don't know, was missing something. So by now I'm hungry. My eyes are exhausted. My feet are swollen. And we had to go and wait. Of course, they had to go, I guess, search the plane again, do everything. And before we were again on our way to Jamaica, I sat down again. I was like, God, I'm sure there was a prayer somewhere. Like, please, like, at this point, I'm wondering if something dramatic, worse is going to happen because of all that's happening. But I'm like, God, at the end of the day, remember me. Oh, remember me in heaven. This is where I've been booking my final destination for heaven. But I did feel very strange. I cannot say everything in this video. I wanted to do a live, but again, my cargo, my stuff are kind of still stuck in Dubai with my YouTube stuff as well, and I feel I just look like a rat now. So whenever I have the confidence to come back on camera, but yeah, it was a very, very eventful 3 days. Made me think of how people are homeless managed. That I thought of them for the first 2 days, and then I really think of the struggles, because just going through this situation for 2 days and how I felt, and just having to move around. So of course I learned, like a professional homeless person, to keep moving. You don't stay in the same place in the airport, to keep moving around, all of these kind of things. And it's a different airport again, not the normal ones. Then you're traveling, the place is more scanty, more empty, less things, as I said. And so back home now in Jamaica on that flight. And of course I get to Jamaica, and of course we have the long lines for the COVID screening and put in the app, and they made me do a video to say the code and my name and that I don't have symptoms of corona. The same video that I will have to do for the next 14 or 15 days. I don't know why they put 15 days on my thing that I have to do. And it's been a journey actually to get home. And traveling in this pandemic is obviously no joke. Things get changed, randomly. Flights maybe that would not have been cancelled can get cancelled. stuff like that. You have to keeping up. And one of the things I have to say as well is that people, even who are working in the hotels, in the airports and everything, because everything has changed, I feel like even for them everything is still new. So you're new to this whole procedure of traveling, they're new to the new procedures as well. People might forget things, you might forget things, stuff might not get done properly. The cargo people, for example, might be overwhelmed with work. The airport agents are overwhelmed. People's flights getting cancelled, not getting to travel because they don't have authorization or COVID tests or whatever. It depends on the country that they're going to. I put a greater emphasis on the COVID test, but in the end, it was the authorization. Actually, I have my COVID negative test as well that I brought with me. And yeah, coming to Jamaica again, you will wait in the lines for this. Again, as I said, too exhausted to count the hours. I don't know if I was standing there for 1 hour or two. By this time, my body is numb to everything. I don't feel anything. I am just kind of slightly impressed. The soldiers are neat. I haven't seen soldiers in a while. Polite and professional. The other persons who are working in the airport there. And then the next drama would be to figure out where my cargo is. So I spent maybe an extra 2 hours trying to figure out where my cargo is. At this point, I'm thinking if I stay more, I might faint. I don't feel faint, but I think it's a possibility, even though I am numb. I paid somebody to go to the airport storage area. Nobody could understand the code of my cargo. I got tired, actually. I left and I came to my friend's place. Eventually, again, the drama didn't end there, but I will just end the video there. So I came to my friend's place, had to wait a bit again, and finally got inside. And then I eventually called the next day the cargo people in Dubai, only to find out that my cargo was not sent in the first place because of another drama. But anyway, this is not the video for that. Again, I will just stop talking about it for now, I think. And so traveling in a pandemic is no joke. Actually, there's a lot of things to consider. Things are changing. If you don't have to travel, I would say don't travel, but if you have to travel, you have to double check and all the facts and cross check. And if your flight was rusted if your flight was booked before, especially certain new changes that is being imposed by the countries, everybody's confused. Nobody really knows what to do, so they keep changing policies, they keep changing things. And if you can be abreast with the change as much as you can, but it doesn't mean that you can prevent turning up to an airport and hearing that your flight was cancelled, or that it's overbooked or something like that, or anything that can happen. So just be prepared. Thank God I had a little bit of an extra few extra items, because now I am still, after a week without my cargo. Most of my stuff are in my cargo, so that's also a little bit of a weird thing for me. And it has been a very interesting adventure, but I do believe that all things will work out for my good. And I believe that when I finally get my cargo, I will understand what the delay was all about. But I'm telling you guys, like, after all of that drama, like on the third day, I was like, God, if you're gonna take me home, remember me. Oh, I'm trying to be a good girl. I don't know if it's a Jamaica thing or it's a me thing, but like when so much dramatic things start happening, you start wondering if death is coming or some other drama. And thank God I was able to reach home safe, and I'm alive and still not having any symptoms of corona or anything like that. And I have been blessed to have someone to take me in at this point when so many people are afraid to host people who travel, even though ironically corona is in Dubai, where I'm coming from. Corona was already in Jamaica before I came, but that fear that people have that yes, the person coming, traveling and bringing it here and stuff like that. The thing is, nobody really understands this virus as far as I'm concerned, and we just have to do our best, try to take the necessary precautions. And I'm extremely grateful to my friend. She's always been someone who's been out on a limb for me, even when she's been discouraged in the past not to assist me. And God will bless this girl for me. And I really appreciate her as a sister, as a friend. And God has always used her to help me out. And so that's the next thing too. When you're traveling, you have to understand that when you are the foreigner coming to an island or to your country, that people will see you as a threat. It's not a bad thing that they do, because corona is a virus that has killed people. It's still killing people. It's still hurting people. People recover from the virus, but nobody wants to get it, as I can understand. And many people have recovered from it, thank God. So that's the next thing you have to think of, that people will not be that comfortable with you in their space or around them, because they know that when you're there, that you are that they are technically taking a risk to have you around. So be grateful to the people who actually take that quote unquote risk, and avoid the people, just do your quarantine thing, and see if you can manage. It's not easy in quarantine. You feel a little bit isolated, or arrest-ish. I will try to cover that one in another video. But I'm grateful for friends. I'm grateful for the people God put in my life. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you next time. I'm Blake.